Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. I'd like to title today's segment, Boundaries. Once again, today's segment is entitled Boundaries. Now, the law, statutes, judgments, and precepts that we were given, there are nothing but instructions by which we are to live and to conduct ourselves. So when you think of laws, you are to think of boundaries. And a boundary, the breaking thereof, can result in one being harmed or one being killed. So a law is not a law unless it is reinforced, i.e., with judgment, stiff penalties, and punishments. Now, as we look around and we see ourselves in these many nations suffering the strife and affliction that was prophesied that we would suffer in these nations, we were told that we would have no ease and we would have no rest, and we would be unsure of our lives, and trouble will follow us, evil will befall us. We're seeing these things every day, but many of us have not been into the book, have not read the book, and have no understanding of exactly why these things are happening to us. Thus, we're suffering from confusion of faith. We continue to seek after things that we cannot attain. We want righteousness, we want justice, we want peace, we want equity, but we're turning to those who are unrighteous, asking them for righteousness. We're turning to those who are unjust, asking them for justice, and it simply does not work that way. We must first clean up ourselves. This goes out to the house of Israel. It also goes out to the stranger that is of a contrite spirit. Once we decide to walk with the Most High in righteousness, then and only then can we turn to Him for justice. He encompasses all of these things. So we continue to seek for justice from the unjust. It doesn't work. And in many instances, we are having a double standard. We will accept certain foul, degenerate behavior within our own houses, within our own families, and with our own communities. And when this foul, degenerate behavior is done outside of the house, we have a problem with that. Acceptable in the house, but we want it to be unacceptable outside of the house. The rules that we hold in the midst of ourselves must be upheld everywhere else. We cannot have a double standard. We cannot have rules that we want to observe inside the home, and then outside of the home, well, it's a free-for-all. So boundaries, if you're on the highway, the boundary for speeding is you have a speeding limit there. And if you disobey that limit, then you're ticketed, you're fined. There are boundaries as far as going over an overpass. There are guardrails. And failure to obey those boundaries or go beyond them can result in your death. So what we have done as a people, we have gone beyond the boundaries of the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. And once you have done that and become lawless, i.e., there are no boundaries, then there are punishments involved after that. And we are suffering the strife and affliction of these punishments for not having any boundaries. We're suffering those consequences right now throughout all the earth. Now, let's speak to one Andrew Gillum and his wife. Some of you may have seen that interview. I haven't seen it. I've heard excerpts of it, and I have no interest in seeing it. Here you have a man of Israel who is a homosexual, and his wife is actually condoning that behavior. She's in support of it. I want you all to understand this is a direct opposition to the Most High's law. This is wickedness. We chose to be wicked people. We were protected by the Most High. We walked with the Most High. We are His people. We decided to disobey the instructions that were given at the first. We wanted to be like other nations. The other nations, they were lawless, and they had no boundaries. And we wanted to be like them. So instead of us obeying the words of the Most High, following His instructions in a way of which we can conduct ourselves and be successful and be blessed, we chose to be unlawful, unjust, unrighteous, and lawless. We wanted no boundaries. So we decided to do what the other nations are doing and went and dwelled in the midst of them, took a hold of their customs, their ways, and their quote unquote gods who are idols. So here we are in this nation, and we are doing the exact same thing that we have done in the days of old. We've taken a hold of vanity. We now are as lawless as the people that are around us when we were strictly and specifically instructed to separate ourselves from them, their ways, and their customs. So we continue to cling and cleave unto the heathen, and it is of no benefit to us. It is to no avail. So here we have a man, an Israelite man and an Israelite woman. This man is a plain homosexual, and everyone knew it, and he was exposed for it. The Most High brought that forth, his wickedness, and he and his wife were brazen enough to do an interview to where they're stating that his wife was stating from the little clip that I've heard that apparently there's love is actually is defined in many different areas, and marriages have many different types of marriages and things of the like. Finding excuses for foul, degenerate, unlawful, and ungodly behavior. And I want those of you out here to know that any man or woman that's walking contrary to the Most High's law, i.e., a homosexual, or those who are accepting of such sick behavior and unlawful behavior, can lead you no place. And they can lead you no place that is good. For two cannot walk together lest they be agreed, and the Most High has made it plain that this behavior is an abomination before him. So, if you are accepting of this nonsense, or you are participating in this nonsense, you are in transgression. So, we are to understand clearly that this man and his house will be troubled. They will be troubled. There will be no peace in his house, for he is walking contrary to the Most High's law, and his wife is accepting of that. Now, think of how sick and disgusting that is. You never would have thought that you would have seen an Israelite woman stating that she supports a homosexual man and she's married to him. Can you imagine the plagues that the Most High will lay upon him for laying down with men and then going and laying down with her? That tells you where her mind is. And I will bet you these are Christians. I would bet you that they're Christians. You must understand all of these Christian nations are European nations. They've never known no peace, for they've never known the Most High. They've never known no peace because they've never walked in the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, or precepts. It was never given to them. So if you're tired of the wickedness that you're seeing each and every day, you're seeing that there's absolutely no boundaries in the people and among the people that are around you. They will do anything. We must understand that a person that has no boundaries cannot be trusted. If you have no boundaries, you lay down with a man's wife, you lay down with his daughter, you lay down with his son, you'll steal his money, you will lie to him, etc. So when you have no boundaries, that person is dangerous. Lack of boundaries is actually lawlessness. And this is what you're seeing in the lands of our captivity. Our enemies are showing us clearly who they are. That goes for the European nations. I've said in times past, you will see them legalize homosexuality. They've done that. They will legalize pedophilia. Better believe that they will. And they will legalize bestiality, because all of those three things are what founded the Roman Catholic Church. And after the Protestant Reformation came what you call the Protestant churches or the Christian churches. They're all of the same one tree, different branches, same thing. So when you see their wickedness, you should not be appalled at all. This is what they do, and they will show you clearly that they are in opposition to the Most High's laws by what they say, and certainly by the things that they do. So at this point, what we're looking at before our very eyes is the great separation and the great divide. What you're seeing in the nation, as far as the upheaval, you're seeing the people, our people, looking for justice, looking for righteousness, looking for equity, and looking for peace. And it was plainly stated by some of the demonstrators that black people will never be safe in America. Well, clearly, the Most High stated that we would have no peace in the lands of our captivity. So they're saying what they certainly see with their eyes, but they certainly do not understand it with their hearts because they're not with the Most High. And though they are out there protesting, when you go up against your enemies and the Most High is not before you, certainly you will fail. So this is the era of our people. We see the injustice before us. We see all the things that are happening, but from a biblical perspective, they are unable to put the dots, to line up the dots and put everything together because their hearts and their minds are still in idolatry. And keep in mind, the men that's killing our sons and killing our daughters, examples such as Breonna Taylor and everyone else that have been murdered throughout the centuries by our enemies, these are Christians. It's Christians that's murdering you. It's Christians that's made laws against you. It's Christians that has enslaved you and ran medical experiments upon you and continue to incarcerate you and have made laws unjustly against you. And you have not figured this out yet. So it is time to make a choice. The choice being you will side with the Most High's righteousness or you will side with wickedness. When you see a family such as Gillum's family, I'm not going to even call him Mr. Gillum, it's just Gillum. Nasty and disrespectful to our people. Our sons and our daughters should not have to see this and certainly should not have to hear this. But our enemies will take such degenerates and degenerate families and put them up before our face. And for those of us who are not rooted in this law and have no sense of morality, will find that to be acceptable. And it is not. And it's because of such people and it's because of such behavior that we are being punished in the midst of these nations. And we have to understand you are seeing a separation of the many different people. Everyone is pulling to his own people. And once that separation takes place, then the next separation will be, will you side with the Most High's law or will you be against it and walk contrary to it in spite of hearing it and knowing it? And that separation between wickedness and righteousness will have no racial boundaries. There will be those of our enemies who will take a hold of the Most High's law, and there will be those of our people who will totally disregard it. And anyone who decides to hear this law and disregard it is going to pay with their lives. So it is time for us to make that decision on exactly which way we will walk. Any man that's of the Gillum camp, any man that's going to support him, voting for him or anything, and woman that will, you have clearly made a choice that you're going to side with wickedness. No wicked man can lead you anywhere. And no righteous man is going to put a wicked man to lead him. So we are at the point now where we must magnify the Most High's law and make it honorable. And when we see such sick and disgusting behavior, such as a gay man and a woman that's accepting of his foul, degenerate ways that are in opposition to the Most High's law, we have to speak out against it. We must teach our children early, our sons and our daughters. As soon as they can understand words, you're to teach them that this is incorrect. That way, you will already plant that seed of righteousness in their minds. That way, by the time they go to school, K-5 and kindergarten and everything else, when our enemies try to tell them otherwise, they will be rooted in the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts, and they will know what is right, righteous, and what is wrong, evil. Because what our enemies are doing, they are magnifying evil throughout the earth. And only those of us who are deaf and blind, i.e. dummies, or just plain old stupid and rebellious, will actually take a hold of this wickedness when we have been shown what righteousness is. So the decision is yours to make. You will choose the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts and walk in righteousness, or you will choose evil, wickedness and be punished and perish for it. For laws are not laws if they cannot be enforced. And if you believe that there is no law and the law is done away with, then you carefully need to go read the laws that were given to the house of Israel, read the curses that were placed upon the house of Israel. And when you read those and you look around at our current condition here in America and everywhere else on the earth, and you see us being punished for breaking all those laws that were laid out before us in the days of old, then you have to make a decision exactly, is this an accident? Is this a coincidence, or is this real? So the choice is for us to make at this point. White righteousness, doing that which is right in the sight of the Most High, or wickedness, totally hearing his law, reading his law, turning our back to it, chucking it behind our backs, and ultimately paying the ultimate price for it. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. To the children of Israel, and to the stranger that is of a contrite spirit that has taken a hold of the Most High's law, you are not to be lawless. You are to walk within the boundaries and the guidelines of the Most High's law. It is a way by which you conduct yourself in a righteous manner. And if you are to walk with the Most High, then and only then are you afforded his protection. When you decide to go beyond those boundaries and go beyond those barriers, then you find yourself in danger. There's no peace for you. Evil befalls you. And that is for you to understand clearly. Once again, thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Peace, Israel.